name called. And then you go through these little dark alleyway into the stadium, and suddenly this massive stadium, 80, 100,000 people, bright sunshine, noise and colour and excitement, and you feel so tiny, and eventually you put your blocks in and strip off. And that's the worst moment, really, just standing on the track and you're trying to shake your legs and you don't think they'll ever move again. Then there's on your marks, and the whole stadium is hushed, and there's not a sound, and it's very lonely, and you change your fingers and you adjust your shorts nervously and get your fingers behind the line and try and concentrate and shut everything out. Set, and then the gun goes, and that's the most blessed moment, because once the gun goes, you're a bird. You're free, that's what you're good at doing, and you've forgotten about your nerves and you've forgotten about everything, and suddenly you're just running with a cheer. You just run and through the tape, and then you just fall over and collapse and die, and you're sick and your head hurts. And the worst thing is, once it's over, it may never happen again.
Great moments in Australian sport, and the greatest challenge of all, the Olympic Games. Australia's first Olympic winner was Edwin Flack in Athens in 1896. He won the 800 and the 1500 metres and was leading in the marathon when he dropped out with 5 kilometres to go. Swimmer Freddie Lane won 2 events in Paris in 1900, and the first team success was in rugby union in London in 1908. Fanny Durack was the first woman gold medalist, winning the 100 metres freestyle in Stockholm 1912 with Mina Wiley second. 3 separate games were held in the 20s after the 8-year gap caused by the First World War. Australians won a bare 4 events in this period. Athlete Nick Winter, swimmer Boy Charlton and diver Richmond Eve, all in Paris 1924, and sculler Bobby Pearce in Amsterdam 1928. The 1932 Los Angeles Games were held during the Great Depression, and Australia's small team performed really well. Bobby Pearce won the sculls once again, Claire Dennis was successful in breaststroke swimming, and Duncan Gray won the cycling time trial. And there was a gold medal that got away in the ancient sport of wrestling. Duncan Gray tells the story.
Eddie Scarf I think he had to wrestle a Swede or something and it was the first, the gold and the bronze. And then somebody else had to wrestle somebody else for the silver.
It's just a strange piece of organisation.
Well, that sounds so stupid to me. Yeah. And when they finished, they gave the Swede or whatever he was, they gave him the decision over Eddie, and Eddie had done him in that way that Eddie had to pick him up and carry him out.
And he got the bronze medal.
He got the bronze medal.
Oh,
well, so help me, I don't know. Eddie had him done to a piece.
Australia finished with 3 gold medals in Los Angeles, but a poor games in Berlin plus the Second World War meant a 16-year wait before the next success. The Games continued in London in 1948, Merv Wood winning the single sculls and John Winter the high jump. But 2 minor medals to athlete Shirley Strickland were the forerunner to some great achievements by Australian women over the next 25 years. First Helsinki 1952 and the Lithgow Flash, Marjorie Jackson in the 100 metres.
Set. And they're off to a good start. Now Marjorie Jackson is first away at 25 yards. The other 2 Australian girls with her. The German Sanders is up with them, and the South African Hassan Yager. 1 minute, and the South African and Shirley Strickland are together. Shirley Strickland, the Hassan Yager second, Shirley Strickland third, Winsome Cripps fourth, and then afterwards coming the other 2.
Our Marge won easily, and she completed the double in the 200 metres. Shirley Strickland won the hurdles, but a drop baton cost the Australians the relay. In cycling, Russell Mockridge won 2 gold, firstly in the time trial and then teaming with Lionel Cox in the tandem. And John Davies won the 200 metres breaststroke. 6 gold was Australia's best effort to that time. The great star of the Melbourne Games in 1956 was the Golden Girl, Betty Cuthbert, the 18-year-old from Sydney who purchased her own spectator tickets in case she didn't make the team. Her first final, the 100 metres.
Set. A start in the 100 metres, and it's a good start too. It's Betty Cuthbert going like great guns in the centre of the track. Daniels on the outside is also doing well. But Betty Cuthbert's going to the tape. And Betty Cuthbert's Cuthbert's going to win. Biddy Cuthbert first. Biddy Cuthbert first in the 100 metres. A gold medal for Australia.
Biddy Cuthbert had won her first gold medal amid scenes of mass hysteria. Next, the 200 metres.
Away to a good start. It's Cuthbert away well from Stubnik, Croker, Paul, Kohler and Matthews. 100 metres to go. It's Cuthbert going very well. Second from the left. Stubnik's right there with her. Matthews also doing well on the inside. And Paul's going well too. Kohler's dropping out of it. They've got about 70 metres to go. And it's Cuthbert coming in. But Stubnik's right there with her. It's Cuthbert, Stubnik and Marlene Matthews. Cuthbert's going to win. Cuthbert will go through the tape to win from Stubnik. Matthews in third place. And fourth, Croker. Fifth, Paul. Sixth, Kohler.
The Golden Girl had won the sprint double, and Shirley Strickland again won the hurdles. This time they didn't drop the baton, and the relay success meant an Australian Grand Slam in women's track events. At the swimming pool, Australia won 8 events to only 2 by the United States. The notable race was the 100 metres freestyle, featuring the great rivals Dawn Fraser and Lorraine Crapp.
About 40 metres to go, and it's Fraser and Crapp. Coming down the pool, within 5, Lorraine Crapp just slightly in front of Fraser. In third place, Faith Leach, but only just from Roe of New Zealand. They're coming down with only about 10 yards to go, and it's neck and neck. Leach and Fraser and Crapp, and it's to the line, and it'll be Fraser first, Crapp second, Fraser first, Crapp second. Oh, a blanket finish for third, but Dawn Fraser has beaten Lorraine Crapp by only inches.
And that was the start of Dawn Fraser's unparalleled career that spanned 3 games. Lorraine Crapp turned the tables in the 400 metres, Murray Rose recorded a double in the 400 and 1500, and John Hendricks won the 100 metres freestyle. David Tyler in backstroke was the only form stroke winner. A relay win and a first in tandem cycling to Ian Brown and Tony Marchant gave Australia a record total of 13 gold medals. In Rome in 1960, controversy at the swimming pool. John Devitt in the 100 metres freestyle.
Down they come on the second lap. Larson has a slight lead from Devitt. Dove of Hungary is also level with them. Larson would be slightly in front to go past us, but Dos Santos of Brazil is going splendidly. Dos Santos, but there's Devitt on the other side there. Devitt going beautifully. Devitt's going well. Devitt, Larson, Hunter, Dos Santos. I can't pick them. Devitt, Hunter. Oh, in together. I think Devitt got it. I think Devitt won. I think Devitt's there.
Commentator Forbes Carlyle called Devitt first, but the Americans protested after the timekeepers recorded that Larson was faster than Devitt. It was before the days of electronic timing, and people still argue about that race. The protest was dismissed. Next, the women's 100 metres, defending champion Dawn Fraser.
Von Salzer and Fraser turn together. Fraser seemed to get slightly the better of the turn. They're looking away from each other, so they don't see each other as they come up on this final lap. They're coming past the 25-yard mark, and Fraser has the ascendancy. Fraser would have almost a body length lead at this stage, level with Von Salzer, level with Natalie Stewart of Great Britain, but there's no doubt about it, Fraser is going to steal this race. She's going to win very, very easily. A length lead, and Fraser comes in and wins easily from Von Salzer, and in third place was Natalie Stewart of Great Britain.
A second win for Dawn, and her best efforts were yet to come. Also in swimming, first placings to Murray Rose, 400 metres, John Conrad's 1500, and David Tyler in the backstroke for the second time. At the main stadium, the most impressive performer was Herb Elliott. The event, the 1500 metres.
And Elliott is now striding away, but Roosevelt won't let him go. Yes, he's got into the straight, he goes into the back straight, and Elliott is striding away from the field, making the thing look ridiculously and ludicrously easy, keeping his form absolutely perfectly. He's got a lead of about 8 or 9 yards, and Yazi of France has come past Roosevelt. He's going to be in second place. Elliott has got 200 yards to go. He's got a lead of 10 yards over Yazi of France, also Belgian third, and the Romanian in fourth place. And here comes Vaughan again. And here comes Elliott into the straight. 100 yards to go. This magnificent Australian, not flinching in any way, still keeping his form, punching with his arms, looking easy and graceful. A lead of 15 yards over Yazi of France, and Elliott has 10 yards to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No, and Elliott has won.
And the time was a new world record. Later, Herb spoke of his flamboyant coach, Percy Cerity.
And before that Olympic race, he wanted to be in the act somehow or other, and he said, I'll be in the stand waving this towel. And he showed me the towel and the position in the stand that he'd be. And he said, if I wave it, it'll mean that somebody's close behind you or you've got a chance to break a world record. I sort of half absorbed it. Anyway, I got into the back straight, the last lap, and I was terrified that these guys behind me might pass me, and the wind whistling past my ears. And all of a sudden I saw Percy waving this towel, and I thought, now what the hell does that mean? Does it mean I'm going to break a world record, or does it mean there's somebody close to me? And I thought, well, whatever it means, I've got to run faster anyway. And he was standing right on the side of the track, and he waved the towel. I was concentrating on the race so much that I still in my mind had him sitting in the crowd where he was. But he was in the act, and that was right that he should be, because he was a great help.
Herb Elliott. Finally, the surprise news that Australia had won the equestrian three-day event, with Laurie Morgan getting the individual gold. Theirs was an incredible story, how they succeeded with thoroughbred horses, how they found a shortcut in the cross-country section, and how Bill Roycroft climbed out of a hospital bed to compete on the final day. 8 gold medals in Rome was the best for an overseas games. Tokyo 1964 was my first trip as a commentator, and Dawn Fraser was attempting to win the 100 metres freestyle for the 3rd time.
She turned in just under 28 seconds. A world record's a possibility. And here's Dawn Fraser racing through to take the lead. Sharon Starter in 5's trying to go with her. And it's going to be a great race between the two, but Dawn Fraser is in front. There's nothing much between them. Dawn about a foot in front now. Sharon Starter putting up a great effort. 58.9 is the world record. 59.9 is the Olympic record. It's Dawn Fraser in front. Sharon Starter can't stay with her. And then Bell over on the far side will be in about 4th place. Here's Dawn Fraser, and Dawn Fraser will win. Dawn Fraser first, Starter second, and Ellis third.
Dawn had made history, a performance which may never be equalled. In men's events, Bob Windle won the 1500 metres, and there were 2 other races which both resulted in world records. First, Ian O'Brien, the 200 metres breaststroke.
O'Brien not making any impression on Prokopchenko at the moment. There's about half a yard between them. About 15 metres to go. It's Prokopchenko and O'Brien. O'Brien stroking the quicker of the two. They're locked together in 3rd place now. Here's Jastrzemski. O'Brien coming to Prokopchenko. He's caught him with 5 metres to go. Here's stroke for stroke. O'Brien maybe just in front. O'Brien's going to win it, I think. O'Brien first. Prokopchenko second. Third is Jastrzemski.
And then Kevin Berry, the 200 metres butterfly.
And Berry's going away from the field. Berry's opening up a lead of a yard and a half at the moment. Schmidt and Roby coming after him, but they're not making any impression. 25 metres to go. Berry swimming right away with the race. He's 2 yards in front of Schmidt and Riker, who are locked together. And then comes the rest of them swimming in, but Berry with 5 metres to go. Berry's got it once. In 2nd place is Roby, then Schmidt, and Berry is first. Berry first. Next to finish is Roby, then comes Schmidt. In 3rd place will be 4th place rather is Riker.
That made 4 Australian firsts in swimming. At the main stadium, tremendous interest in Betty Cuthbert on the comeback trail in the 400 metres.
Away they go, and it's LeBray from Schmidt with Anne Parker starting very well. The 2 Australian girls are running very well with Betty Cuthbert moving nicely. Right on the outside of the track, LeBray is the leader, but Anne Parker has hit the front down the back straight with Maria Itinka of Russia running along strongly. Here come the 2 Australians now. Judy Moore just leading away from Betty Cuthbert as they go into the final 200 metres, where the leader is Anne Parker. Parker is the leader now from Ikina of Russia. Parker, Ikina of Russia, Betty Cuthbert and Judy Moore coming into the picture too as they come to the turn into the straight. And coming to the turn into the straight, it's going to be Betty Cuthbert who's hit the front. Betty Cuthbert has hit the front for Australia now, and coming down the outside, Anne Packer, but it's Betty Cuthbert from Packer as they come into the final 50 yards. Packer closing on Betty Cuthbert. It's still Packer closing on Cuthbert, but Cuthbert holding her advantage, and Betty Cuthbert is going to win the gold medal. Cuthbert goes to the line and wins the gold medal, and Judy Moore has finished 3rd.
Betty Cuthbert finished with 4 Olympic gold medals, all in different events. Australia's 6th win was in the 5.5 metre class in yachting. Skipper Bill Northam at 59 was Australia's oldest gold medalist. At Mexico City in 1968, the Australian team performed above expectations in the high altitude conditions. First, the 80 metres hurdles with Maureen Caird and Pam Kilbourne.
They're on their marks. Set.
Ran away, a good start. Kilbourne and Caird both away nicely. So too with Talashay with Stazinska and Zalbalza. After going over to 4 hurdles, it's Caird in front. Kilbourne coming very fast. Also up them with Chi. It's Caird in front and Caird and Kilbourne. It's Caird first. Maureen Caird, the 17-year-old, has taken out the gold medal for Australia. It's very, very close for second and third. Possibly Kilbourne second, with a bunch of runners right behind it.
Caird first and Kilbourne second, but there were many experts who thought they might finish the other way around. Next, an epic contest between Kipragat of Kenya and Ralph Dubell in the 800 metres.
Dubell following from through now as Dieter Fromm of Germany goes up after Kipragat, who is a clear leader by 5-10 yards down the back straight. It is Kipragat in front with Ralph Dubell making the challenge now, but still the space of daylight between he and the leader, Kipragat. The Kenyan Kipragat is in front, but Dubell is closing on him. Kipragat increasing his stride inside the last 200 metres now. It is Kipragat leading away now from Dubell, and Dubell straining with everything he knows to try for the gold medal for Australia. It is Kipragat in front, and Dubell is challenging him. He comes up close to him now, comes to his elbow. He goes past him, and it's a gold medal for Australia. If he can hold on, Kipragat's challenging, and no, Dubell's going again, and Dubell wins it. Dubell wins it for Australia.
Ralph Dubell equalled the world record. At the pool, a swimming first for Western Australia, with Lynn McClements winning the 100 metres butterfly. Michael Wendon set a world record in the 100 metres freestyle, and his clash with America's Don Sholanda over 200 metres was hailed as the race of the games. To that time, Sholanda had not been beaten over the distance.
But it's still Wendon. Sholanda's got to catch him in the run home. With 60 metres to travel, it's still Wendon of Australia in front of John Sholanda. In third place is John Nelson of the United States, and the rest are dropping back. Wendon in front as they make the turn with 50 metres to go. Michael Wendon, swimming magnificently, is about a half yard in front of John Sholanda of the United States, and I don't think he can catch Wendon. 25 metres to go. Wendon is swimming strongly. Sholanda's coming home with a great burst, but it's Michael Wendon of Australia in lane 4, holding to his half-yard lead. It looks like the second gold medal for Wendon. Wendon 15 metres to go in front, and Wendon must win for Australia. In goes Michael Wendon to win the 200. John Sholanda second.
And that made 2 gold medals to Michael Wendon, Australia 5 for the Games. Australia's great star in Munich 1972 was swimmer Shane Gould, and the night of her first final was an unforgettable occasion, the 200 metres individual medley.
Shane Gould starting to put in the great pressure now, and I think she's going to get to Fidelli. Fideli's in front past the 25 metres mark, and here comes Shane Gould with a great effort now. Over in lane 2, there's Bart of the United States finishing very well, but Shane Gould is upside now with Fidelli. Shane Gould is just about in front. Fideli's fighting back strongly. Only inches in it. Shane Gould, Fidelli. Shane Gould's in front with 10 metres to go. She's just in front and going away slightly. Gould will go in the first gold medal to Australia. And Gould is taking the United States
world record.
So firmly in third place and a world record.
223.1 of a second.
Forbes Carlyle in the background was Shane's coach. She went on to win the 400 and 200 metres freestyle with minor placings in 2 other races. Shane Gould is the greatest medal winner at 1 Games in Australian Olympic history. Also in swimming, Beverly Whitfield, the 200 metres breaststroke.
It's Stepanova of Russia as she comes back down the pool, the final 50 metres, about 30 metres to travel. Stepanova of Russia holds about a body length now. Here's Whitfield starting to finish very well, and so too is Schoenfield of the United States, with only inches between these two in second and third positions. In fact, equal second position now. A great finishing burst from Whitfield. Stepanova still in front. Whitfield is making a great effort now. She's in second position. Can she catch the leader on the far side? Whitfield a great burst. I think she's in front. Whitfield in front very slightly, and she goes to the touch, and Beverly Whitfield has won it. She's won the gold medal in the 200 metres women's breaststroke final.
And Gail Neal, 400 metres individual medley.
With 30 metres to go, it's almost impossible to separate them. Neal in 7, the Canadian girl away over in 3, and these two have got the race for themselves past the 25 metres mark, and I think Gail Neal might be slightly in front. She's fighting back strongly. A great swim from Canada. 20 metres to go. Gail Neal just in front. She's only inches in front of the Canadian girl. Neal in front with 10 metres to go. Inches in front. A great finish from Kalakara coming on well, but Gail Neal's won it. Second place, Triple Canada. Kalakara Savitri in third place, and Gail Neal has won it in world record time.
Australia was awarded a 6th swimming gold medal when American Rick DeMont was disqualified for drug taking after the 400 metres freestyle, and Brad Cooper was declared the winner. Finally, yachting wins to John Cuneo and David Forbes meant a total of 8 gold medals to equal the Rome performance. Montreal 1976 was a disappointing experience, with Australia failing to win a single event. Then came the excitement of Moscow 1980.
It's Evans and the Russian. Evans coming straight for stroke. It's Mark Tonelli for Australia. Here they go in the butterfly section. In the water they go. Tonelli just a fraction behind Tonelli. A beautiful dive. And here they go in butterfly. Now, how close can Tonelli stay to the Russian? Australia, I'd say, a definite silver medal chance, or almost certainly a silver medal. Can we cross our fingers and say, can they make it gold?
The race in progress is the men's 4x100 medley relay. Without doubt, the most exciting event of my broadcasting life.
Brooks is in front, going down towards the 50-metre turn. He's just in front of Kaplarkov. He can swim 50 seconds, 100 Brooks. Round he goes, Australia in front. It's Brooks coming out of a very long push. It's Brooks and Kaplarkov. In the second lap, straight for straight they go. The crowd's going wild. Australia in front. It's Neil Brooks and Kaplarkov. Forget the rest. It's Brooks and Kaplarkov. Who can win? Brooks is just a fraction in front. Straight to go. 15 metres from a gold medal for Australia. 15 metres. 10 metres now. Brooks in front. It could be Australia's gold. 5 metres. 4, 3, 2, 1. Gold! Gold to Australia. Gold!
Gold, gold, gold. On now to Michelle Ford in the 800 metres.
Michelle Ford, with 30 metres to swim, is about 8 metres in front. The time up to 8:10. She's not going to be too far outside the world record. I think she'll break 8:30, and Michelle Ford scoring a brilliant all-the-way win. Here comes Michelle Ford. The crowd's starting to cheer. About 15 metres to go, and Michelle Ford is easily 8 to 10 metres in front. A tremendous effort for Australia, and in comes Michelle Ford for the gold medal in 8:28.9. Great work, Michelle Ford.
Australia's first individual gold medalist for 8 years. Los Angeles 84 and the cycling awesome foursome. Michael Grender, Kevin Nichols, Michael Turter and Dean Woods, the 4,000 metres pursuit.
The Americans are coming around into the home straight. The Australians down the back. The Americans can't fight back from there. Half a lap to go for the Australians. They lead by 2.44. And the Australians coming down to the home straight. Charlie Walsh, the coach, urging them on. Gold for Australia. Great performance. Australia's first gold medal at the Olympic Games. And they've murdered the Americans.
And at the swimming pool, a grandstand finish by 17-year-old John Sieben.
Round they go with 50 metres to swim. It's Gross, then Fidal, Morales, Sieben. That's how they line up. The 4 swimmers in front. Nobody else has a chance now. Sieben is coming at Vidal if he can. It's Michael Gross in front, aiming for his third gold medal. 25 metres to swim. It's Gross on the far side, Morales on this side. Look at so Sieben for Australia. Sieben's coming right in, he could win it. Sieben's coming through, he could win the race. John Sieben in 9-6 is coming out, it could be a gold medal to Australia. It's Gross and Sieben. Sieben took the front. Sieben in front, it could be a gold. And Sieben has won the gold medal. It's a gold medal to Australia. John Sieben has won the event in 1:57.04 and he's broken the world record. A world record to John Sieben. Unbelievable.
Before the race I wasn't that nervous. I felt pretty relaxed and I felt good during the race. I wasn't tired or anything, and then I turned to the last 50 to go and I just thought, well, here goes, it's all or nothing, so I went for it.
And at the main stadium, the Coliseum, Glynis Nunn in the nail-biting last event in the women's heptathlon.
Nunn's hanging on grimly to Everts. They've got 200 metres to go. Everts leads Nunn by about 7 metres. Joyner in fourth position is about
1 second at the 600.
She's kicking now, and Nunn's got to try and hang on to her. Everett is about 10 or 15 metres in front of Nunn. Nunn hanging on. Simpson in third position, and Joyner dropping back. She's got to try and hang on to Glynis Nunn. Into the straight. Everett's in front of Nunn. I think Nunn can do it. She's got about 80 metres. She's lifting herself magnificently. She will do it. Everett's is in front, but Joyner's still only 20 metres behind. Everett's in front of Nunn. Everett's coming down to the line now. 10 metres in front. That won't be enough for her. In comes Nunn. How far behind is Joyner?
Oh, Joyner's 2.6 behind.
I think
Glynis Nunn has won it. Glynis Nunn has won the gold medal, I'd say.
And indeed she had. Glynis Nunn, winner of the first ever heptathlon. Finally in Los Angeles, weightlifter Dean Lucan, the super heavyweight division.
Dean Lucan, the bar at 240 kilograms, he will get 2 chances at 240 kilograms. He's assured of silver, but should he lift this, it will be gold for Australia. Up it goes, up to the shoulders, and he does it with ease. He pumped out the legs. Now, can he raise the arms above his head? He's fishing for gold and not tuna. Up it goes. I think it's gold for Luton. He's walking around. Let's see what the judges say. It's gold to Luton. The tuna fisherman from Port Lincoln has won Australia's 4th gold medal. And it's a
Australia's first weightlifting gold medalist. The Olympic story continues at Seoul in Korea in 1988. Great moments in Australian sport and the British Empire and Commonwealth Games. And in this recording we are featuring the 10 greatest performers or performances. It all started in the city of Hamilton in Ontario, Canada in 1930. And the small Australian team returned with gold medals in swimming and sculling, but none in the major sport athletics. It was almost the same story in London in 1934, with no successes in running events. The only gold medal at the main stadium was won by Jack Metcalf in the hop, step and jump. It all changed in Sydney in 1938 when a tiny runner from Perth set up a record which has yet to be equalled. Her name was Decima Norman. She was less than 5 feet 2 or 157 centimetres tall, and she was 29 years old at the time of the Games.
Women's 100 yards. Big Barbara Burke, South African champion, speaks out, but Decima Norman, white flash from the west, is running away. Folks like a rabbit. Decima wins marvellously.
I really thought Barbara Burke would win the 100, so I was very thrilled when I could see the tape in front of me and she wasn't in front of me.
Do you have any memories? Now, it's a long time ago, isn't it? 1938, over 40 years ago.
Yes, don't remind me.
The race is all over in 11 seconds or something like that. Do you have any memories of the actual event? The start or run?
No, I honestly haven't. All I can remember is just seeing that tape in front of me.
Well, was the 220 an easier race than the 100 or a harder race?
Well, I suppose you'd say it was a harder race because you don't have time to think in the 100, but you do in the 220.
The women's 220 yards final. Watch Decima Norman, Western Australia's wonder goat. Australian girls Coleman and Byrne trailing the places as Decima, hunched, determined, finishes gloriously. Decima's bolted. Australia's white streak flashes to the tape, winning as she likes. The greatest girl sprinter this country has ever produced. Hats off to little Decima Norman, champion and Australian.
Well, when you look at that and when you think back on how you did it compared to what they do these days, do you ever really think you reached your potential as a runner?
There was one article written up in the Games that said that they considered me #1 in the world as a broad jumper, #1 in the world as a sprinter, 100 yards, and #2 after the American girl in the 220, which quite flattered me.
but when you see, you've seen the old film of yourself running, and you look at yourself in comparison to these days, and you always reminded me when you ran about, what's the expression, like a startled rabbit, that you really scurried along. What did you think of yourself when you saw yourself actually running on film?
Well, I didn't realise until I saw the others run and their style, what a dreadful style I had.
Dreadful style or not, she won 5 gold medals in the sprints, the broad jump and 2 relays. A performance yet to be equalled in any sport by any competitor from any country. Australia won a total of 24 gold medals in 1938, and there was a gap of 12 years caused by the Second World War. In 1950, a powerful Australian team crossed the Tasman for the Auckland Games, and the great star was the sprinter, known as the Lithgow Flash, Marjorie Jackson.
They're off, and Strickland out well, but Jackson's bounded out too and takes the lead from Strickland, followed by Johnston and Hartman. Halfway, and it's Jackson from Strickland. Marjorie Jackson drawing away and right through the tape.
Marjorie Jackson of Australia again equals the world record of 10.8 seconds.
I think really I did have a lot of natural ability, and I think to be an athlete you do have to have a certain amount of natural ability. I think my training and my technique was what I thought was very good. I used to stand in front of a mirror for half an hour to an hour when I first started to run, just learning to move my arms back and forth, just to brush my hips, that they would go in a straight line, that I, wouldn't have them flinging myself all over my body, that I would just lose those few inches. I mean, that's how keen I was. And I mean, if I looked like Marilyn Monroe, that would have been all right. When you could look at this dial in the mirror all the time, it was a bit hard to take.
Her next event was the 220 yards, and her main rival was hurdles champion Shirley Strickland.
I thought Shirley would win the 220 yards, because that was an event that I really didn't do very much training for at that time. My main race and training was for the 100 yards. And I think in the heat, or one of the semi-finals, she ran a faster time than I did, and I really thought that she would win the 200.
They're off, and a great roll from the big crowd, and it's an even start, but from the inside it's Robb, then Parker, Johnson, Strickland going fast, so is Jackson, and Rowe on the outside. Jackson takes the lead from Strickland. Past the halfway, and it's Jackson, with Strickland gaining ground. Only a foot or two to Robb, followed by Parker close up, then Johnson. Down the straight, it's Jackson, running with determination and style, holding Strickland at bay, and she wins the sprint double.
For the third time at the Games, Marjorie Jackson equals a world record.
Yeah, well, again, you equalled the world record, but the conditions for that 220 weren't too good, were they?
Actually, they were a quagmire. It rained very, very heavily, and you know yourself how soggy grass goes when it gets wet, and of course the running shoes would be full of mud, and all the mud was stuck to your spikes, so really you didn't have much grip on the track at all.
Well, I think the most remarkable point about you was your capacity to start quickly. They called you the Lithgow Flash because of this reason, and when you see a slow motion film of yourself starting, particularly in that 220, that you're out of the block so quickly.
I believe that was one of my outstanding features, or so it was always said. I had an uncanny knack of getting away very, very quickly. I tend to still have that when I go from the lights in a motor car. I still find I seem to have that knack of just really sort of anticipating when the gun is going to go. You're not actually beating it, but you really have taken perhaps 2 strides as the others are just coming out of the blocks, and I know that I know in various races, in 5 yards, I'm 2 yards ahead at the beginning, and that had, if ever I got a bad start, I really don't know how I would have gone.
Marjorie Jackson went on to win the Olympic sprint double in Helsinki in 1952 and collected a further 3 Empire gold medals in Vancouver in 1954, for a total of 7 at Empire level. And Vancouver was the scene of one of the greatest athletic events in history. It was called the Mile of the Century, and the 2 great rivals were John Landy, Australia, and Roger Bannister, England.
And Landy has decided that he must track on the pace, and he's taken over the lead with 150 yards to go to the first end of the first lap. Landy in his green shorts for Australia, slim, sallow, curly dark hair, and he's setting out a very fast pace. Halberg second, Bailey third, and Bannister doesn't like this, and he's stepping up now into third position, coming up almost into second position, and at the end of the first lap, it is Landy first by about 5 yards, and Bannister 5 yards behind him.
The great interest in this race was not only who could win, but also the time, and could the so-called 4-minute barrier be beaten for the first time in international competition.
At the bell. And still, it's Landy in the lead, with Bannister 2 yards behind. And now we come to 300 yards to go. Can Bannister catch him? There is none of this famed spurt at the moment. Landy is, I think, drawing slightly away. Yes, Landy has got a lead of about 3 yards. It's 220 yards to go, and I don't believe Bannister's going to be able to catch him. Landy is running beautifully. No, Bannister's coming up on him now. 150 yards to go, and Bannister is gaining ever so slightly with each stride. 130 yards to go, and Bannister is coming up to Landy's elbow. Bannister has passed Landy, and he comes into the straight, and it's going to be Bannister's race. Landy is flagging, I think. Here comes Bannister, sliding absolutely magnificently. He's got a lead of 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, about 15 yards to go, and Bannister breasts the tape now, and Landy second, about 3 yards behind.
Bannister first, Landy second. Both runners breaking 4 minutes. Let's hear first of all from Roger Bannister.
My end plan was to not allow my schedule of fairly even laps to be put off by what anyone else would do. And I realized that John Landy was going just a little bit too fast for me in the first 2 laps. And so I let him go. And it's rather a frightening thing to allow a 15-yard lead to open up in the middle of a race which so much is at stake. And then I managed to close by the bell And then in the last lap, I felt him going away from me in the last straight, but I tried to hang on grimly, and then at the last corner I did find I had something left, and so hurled myself past him, and then was just determined to reach the tape.
Next, John Landy.
Well, to run the first lap with a little bit in reserve and then just go as hard as I could, and idea to burn anyone off that tried to stay with me, but unfortunately I couldn't burn Bannister off. I tried very hard, and he just hung to me. That was the only plan I had.
John Landy. And was there really a loser in the mile of the century? In Cardiff in 1958, there were a number of fine Australian performances. Marlene Matthews won the sprint double, and Dave Power was successful in the 6 miles and the marathon. But the most talked about race was the 880 yards, and for once the mighty Herb Elliott did not start as favourite.
And it's number 29, Leslie Locke, who goes into the lead. The others all absolutely 4 abreast behind him, with Herb Elliott dropping back, so he isn't going to lead. He's decided after leading at the British Championships that he'll wait and try his luck behind. Farrell is at the shoulder of Locke, Rawson at his shoulder. Then nipping in behind there is the New Zealander Smith. Then Elliott on the outside and moving up. Elliott into 3rd position, into 2nd position. He's sensing that the pace is pretty slow, I think.
And Herb, that seemed to show your attitude to running competitively rather than running times, that they said originally that you couldn't run a half mile with a slow first lap, but you really went out and set the pace.
That half mile was a real test, Norman, because in the week before I'd run against that chap called Hewson, and he'd beaten me at White City, and so he was the favourite to win that particular race, and I wanted to run a tactical race, which was to sort of just surprise him and open up a gap during the 2nd lap so that he couldn't catch it up.
Fanning out now into 5 abreast as they come up to the bell. And the time at the bell was very slow indeed. It was 58.3 seconds. And Elliott immediately takes over the lead. Wonders whether he's spoiled his chances by that slow first lap. But it's now Elliott with Hewson behind him, and Smith of New Zealand 3rd, Rawson 4th, Farrell 5th, Locke 6th, and Sullivan of Rhodesia last. And looks to me as if Elliott is managing to hold his lead, running very powerfully indeed round the last bend, and it's 70 yards to go, and Herb Elliott of Australia leading by a foot from Brian Hewson. And Brian Hewson's giving it absolutely everything he's got. He's coming level, but he can't quite make it, and Herb Elliott wins from Brian Hewson.
Herb also won the mile. And in Cardiff, here's an interview with 20-year-old swimmer Dawn Fraser, who just broken the world record in the 110 yards freestyle.
My ambition to be, before I finish swimming, is to break the minute. And my first lap now is getting faster each swim I have, and all I have to do is keep on working at it, and I think that I'll be able to do it in about the next 2 years.
But it was 4 years later, in Perth, 1962.
And up goes Dawn Fraser in the lead in lane 4. She's leading by a half a yard already from Robin Thorne and Mary Stewart of Canada, who's also swimming well. There goes Fraser into the turn now in
27.9.
27.9, and she could be under a minute. Dawn Fraser is leading by 6 feet now from Diana Wilkinson, Mary Stewart, also Robin Thorne of Australia, swimming very well, but it's all Dawn Fraser with 25 yards to swim. Fraser is clearing out. This is going to be a great race for second. Fraser going in 2nd place at the moment is Robin Thorne of Australia, just leading Mary Stewart of Canada. But look at Fraser. She's got 4 strokes to swim. In she goes, 1, 2, and touches now. Fraser the winner.
And she's done it. She's done it, 59.5.
And so Dawn Fraser had made history, and it was a further 2 years before any other woman swimmer broke the minute. The 1966 Games were held in the Caribbean for the first time. The venue was Kingston in Jamaica, and the outstanding athlete was Diane Burge, who won 3 gold medals with 2 sprints and a relay. Kingston also marked the start of the career of Australia's most successful Games performer, swimmer Michael Wendon. His first final, the 110 yards freestyle, the favourite was the Tokyo Olympic silver medalist Robbie McGregor. Michael Wendon of Australia, the fastest qualifier in lane 4. Bobby McGregor of Scotland's in lane 5 on this side. Over in lane 3 is John Ryan of Australia, and David Dixon, the Australian swimming team captain, is in lane 2 towards the far side. Coming down towards the first turn, it's Michael Wendon, who's just in front of Bobby McGregor, who was the Olympic silver medalist in Tokyo 2 years ago. Ryan and David Dixon having a great race for third place, but let's look at the turn now. It looks to be Wendon in front, and round they go. It's Wendon, then McGregor, Ryan and Dixon level together in third place, but the swimmers in the middle of the pool maintaining the interest here. It's Michael Wendon and Bobby McGregor. This head-to-head clash we expected is on now, but it's Wendon in front. About 25-30 yards to go, and it's Wendon and McGregor. Wendon stroking about 2 to McGregor's 1. Over on the far side, Dixon's going well with Ryan, but who will it be? Wendon just in front. He doesn't even appear to be looking at McGregor at all, just concentrating on what he's doing. It's Wendon just a fraction in front now, just a few yards to go. It's Wendon, McGregor and Dixon. Wendon first. Yes, Wendon first, McGregor second, and Dixon third. A great effort to Michael Wendon. Wendon won 3 gold medals in Kingston, a further 4 in Edinburgh in 1970, and his final games was in Christchurch 1974. Here, his main ambition to win the 100 metres freestyle.
Here's the great Michael Wendon really flying. He's coming up now for tremendous force from this crowd. They're really urging him on. Michael Wendon's in front, and Michael Wendon is ahead of Robertson, coming in counter-vector, and also Neil Rogers. Right over on the far side, Brian Phillips going well, but Michael Wendon well in front. He's a length clear, and he's flying up the line. A tremendous finish to his career. Look at the time. It's 51, 52, plus 52.7. He's won it. Michael Wendon, a great performance, 52.7, and Michael Wendon has capped his international career with a great gold medal.
He won a total of 9 Commonwealth Games gold medals, plus 2 more at the Olympics in 1968, easily a record for any Australian competitor. At the Games in Edinburgh, there was only 1 individual world record. The event was the 800 metres freestyle, the swimmer Karen Morass.
We have Helen Gray, who has just made her turn. She's about 40 yards behind. Robin Risson is running third, turning now. Karen Morass is almost a lap in front of Robin Risson. And here's the turn for the last 50 metres. The crowd going completely wild now. They realise they're seeing a world record. They're really roaring. This should be a world record. The time coming up with Karen Morass, a brilliant performance. I have never seen a distance swim of this calibre. This is the greatest swim of all time. She's coming up now. I think she'll do about 9.5, clipping about 4 seconds off the existing world record, and everybody in this pool knows it. They've reported her all the way down the last 50 metres. They're roaring now, completely roaring. Here's the greatest time of 56, coming up to 9 minutes. She's about 5 metres out. Let's look at the final time. Only a couple of strokes left. It's going to be about 9. What a brilliant performance. 9.2 and .45. She has taken 6.55 seconds off the world record.
Well, after that race, you got a terrible blasting in the English press. What happened there in that press conference?
Well, first of all, they asked me whether it was more important to win a gold medal or win a world record. And the thing that I think people misunderstood was I said that I expected to win, which I did. I mean, my times were 20 and 30 seconds ahead of anyone else. I mean, I would have been very embarrassed if I hadn't have won. But I expected to win, and therefore my main aim in that event was to win a world record. And that's the way I told it to him. And he said, do you consider yourself blasé? Well, I didn't even know what the word meant. So myself and the other 2 Australian girls, we just giggled. And I didn't think anything more of it. And then the next day it was written up in the English press that Karen Morass thinks more of herself than her country, and all she's out to get is world records.
One can only ponder the reaction of the English press if a British swimmer had broken the world record. Also in Edinburgh, Pam Kilbourne won the hurdles for the 3rd time, and Raylene Boyle was the sprinting star with 3 gold medals. 4 years later in Christchurch, Raylene recovered from a fairly serious leg injury to defend her titles, but she was beaten by Andrea Lynch of England in the semi-final of the 100 metres. Then came the final.
Robertson got away very nicely, so did Raylene Boyle, and Lynch is slow. At the halfway mark, Raylene Boyle is just leading from Lynch. Lynch and Boyle and Robertson. Boyle's going to win it, I think. Boyle's going to win it. Raylene Boyle has won it. A magnificent victory by Raylene Boyle, who came up to beat Andrea Lynch with, I think, 3rd place going to Denise Robertson.
I can remember the gun went off and Andrea shot out as she normally did. And she had quite a bit of a lead on me. And then I could feel myself gathering momentum, even though I wasn't really catching her. And then at about 50 metres, I started to roll over the top of her, and about 10 or 15 metres out, I caught her, and I thought, this is mine. And I was a very happy person. That's probably about the most important race I've ever run.
Next, the 200 metres.
The away they go. Boyle got away fairly well. Now she's catching Annam, and on the inside Robertson is coming through, and Robin Boker's running fairly well on the inside of the lane. Boyle's already taken over coming into the straight. Boyle leads into the straight. Annam's going with her. Robertson is coming now, but at this stage it appears to me that Boyle has it won. There's a challenge coming from Bailey. It's got it on the inside, but Raylene Boyle's going to win it again. Boyle streaks away to beat Robertson with Annam third.
Raylene won her 6th gold medal in the relay. She failed to win an event in Edmonton in 1978, hampered once again by injury. In 1982, in her 4th Commonwealth Games, she reappeared as a 400-metre runner before an emotional home crowd at the QE2 Stadium in Brisbane.
Down the back, McDonald's in front. Now Scott moves into second place. Raylene Boyle going through the field. She's up to 4th now, followed by Taylor and Hoyt Smith in about 6th place. On the top turn, just over 200 metres to go. McDonald in front. Now Scott moves into 2nd place. Raylene Boyle's going quickly. She moves into 3rd place. And tracking her up is Hoyt Smith from Canada. On the top turn, 100 metres to go. And it's Raylene Boyle in front. She's got the better of Scott. The dangerous Hoyt Smith. Raylene turns in front, 100 metres out. Hoyt Smith is coming home quickly. The Brisbane crowd in the stand getting up to get her home. Raylene Boyle in front by about 2 metres. She's got it won. Raylene Boyle has won the 400 metres. Raylene Boyle easily by about 5 metres.
And that was her 7th gold medal. At the Edmonton Games in 1978, there was one event which rated well above the rest. It was the women's 800 metres freestyle in swimming. Tracy Wickham was the world record holder, and her great rival was Michelle Ford.
Round they go, 3 laps to go. It's Tracy Wickham in front, but she's pushed all the way here by Michelle Ford.
It's just one of those things that I know that once I get ahead, there's no way, no matter if I'm totally exhausted and just gone, there's no way they'll pass me. There's something there that comes when you need it. There's something there in your mind or in your muscles, or I don't know what it is in your body, that when you need that extra little bit for that last 100 metres, well, it always comes.
Tracy Wickham goes round in 7:22.67. That was a sizzling 100. I think she's going to swim something like 7:8.26, which will be about 4 seconds under the world record. Now, Tracy Wickham, as we said, her coach said that she is going to train through these games to be at her peak for the World Championships in Berlin. If that is so, she is not at her top, but she's going to break the world record. There's no question that she must be under it, and that puts these games right on the map here in Edmonton. It's a wonderful performance by these 2 Australian girls, and all the drought of medals we haven't had for the first couple of days, well, it's all changed now. And here's Tracy Wickham and Michelle Ford in the last 50 metres, and the crowd really going wild now because both of them are going to be under the existing world record. Now, keep your eye on the clock. The world record is 8:30.53. Tracy has about 25 metres to swim. Michelle's sprinting after her. There's only a length between them. The 2 girls are going really fast. They're sprinting home. Tracy's flying over on the far side. There's Michelle coming in. But look at this time. She's going to be a long way under the world record. Tracy Wickham, a great world record here in Edmonton. And there it is, a world record. Both of them broke the world record. Both of them broke the world record. 8:24.62, 8:25.78. 2 magnificent performances.
And that must rank as one of the greatest races in world swimming history, because that world record has stood the test of time. Finally, the unforgettable marathon at the Brisbane Games in 1982 with Robert De Castella. Come on, Deke.
Well, the Kangas opened up a gap. They've gone through 39 kilometres. They've got round about 3 to go. And
De Castella's coming again.
Obviously a real battle of the minds now, with both trying to establish that mental supremacy over the other. And has there ever been a marathon like this? This could be the greatest finish in a marathon in history.
I think the crowd sensed that I was really peaking them back so quickly, or they knew, and the support that I was getting was just tremendous, and it really lifted me. And when I actually passed a Kanga, I think everybody just went crazy, and I felt as if I almost had the race won.
Just about into the last mile of the marathon. De Castella in front.
The crowd's going wild.
A second, and the crowd support for De Castella is lifting the Australian. Look at him, what a sight. 40 kilometres down. 2 to go, and that gap widens.
Yes,
De Castella pulling away. He could have the marathon won.
It's got him, I think. Come on, De Castella. Come on, De.
I think once I dropped the Kanga off and we were getting really close to the finish, I still hadn't really accepted the fact that I'd won the race. I was still quite prepared for him to come back again. because the crowd were really making so much noise, and I wasn't going to turn around and have a look to see where he was. I didn't know how far behind he actually was, so I was running flat out right to the finish line, and it wasn't until I was only about 50 metres from the finish that I really let all of my emotions come out.
But De Castella has shown us all today that if he's not the best, he's mighty at the same time. This has been a performance to remember for all time. Look at the
crowd
speed.
cheering him on. Come on, De Castella. They're cheering and he's running. He's responding. Look at it. Yes,
Well done,
he's won
Deke.
it.
Go, Deke.
Yes, he's won it.
And indeed he had. An event watched by a huge television audience in the early hours of the morning, for Robert De Castella was a national hero. The last word to the person who won a record 9 gold medals at the Commonwealth Games, Michael Wendon.
The entire series of games that I competed at with enjoyment. I enjoyed every one of the races that I swam in, and I enjoyed the games as a whole. And it's from that point of view that I look at my involvement with the Commonwealth Games, from the point of view of I enjoyed the lot of it, it was good fun, and if anybody else comes along to equal the number of medals that I've won or better that number of medals, my way of looking at them would be, well, they've probably enjoyed it just as much or more than I have.
Michael Wendon, a prolific contributor to great moments in Australian sport.